My beloved brothers and sisters, there is a question that quietly troubles many hearts, a question that often arises within families, sometimes whispered, sometimes shouted. Whom should I love more, my parents or my spouse? For some, this question feels like a heavy burden, a silent tug-of war between duty and desire, between loyalty and affection. Today, we are going to walk into this delicate subject, not to fuel confusion, but to shed light on a path of clarity, wisdom, and balance. Love, when misunderstood, can turn into comparison and competition. Yet, when understood correctly, love transforms into harmony. The love we owe to our parents is unique, irreplaceable, and built upon years of sacrifice, sleepless nights, and unconditional care. On the other hand, the love for a spouse is equally sacred, built upon companionship, trust, and the promise of walking together through life's journey. These two loves are not enemies, they are different chapters of the same story. Many families suffer silently because people fail to understand this difference. A spouse may feel neglected because one is too attached to their parents, and parents may feel abandoned because all attention is shifted to the new partner. In truth, both sides are rightful, both sides are precious. The challenge is not about choosing one over the other. The challenge is about placing each one in their rightful position in the heart. My dear listeners, today's speech will not just answer the question of parents or spouse. It will show you how to rise above the question itself. It will invite you to see love not as a battlefield, but as a garden where every relationship has its own flower, its own fragrance, its own beauty. If you understand this, you will never have to choose one love at the expense of another. You will simply learn how to love wisely, sincerely, and completely. When we talk about love between parents and spouse, the problem begins when people start to think of it as a competition. Some feel that showing love to their spouse is a betrayal to their parents. Others fear that honoring their parents might create distance with their partner. This is where so many hearts become restless. But the truth, my brothers and sisters, is that love is not a limited resource. It is not a pot of food that finishes when shared by more people. Real love grows when it is shared, and it flourishes when it is balanced. Parents are the first school of love. They are the ones who carried us, fed us, protected us, and guided us when we knew nothing about life. Their love is sacred because it comes from sacrifice and sincerity. No matter how old we become, their place in our hearts remains permanent. On the other side, the spouse comes into our life later, but with a bond that is also divinely blessed. It is the spouse who shares our dreams, our secrets, our daily struggles, and our intimate joys. Their love is sacred because it comes from companionship and trust. When these two forms of love are understood properly, there is no conflict between them. Each one is unique. But what happens in many homes is that people compare the two. A husband might say, "My wife does not respect my mother," or a wife might complain, "My husband always puts his parents above me." Parents might sometimes feel that their child has been snatched away by the spouse. This mindset creates friction because everyone starts to see love as if it is a battle with winners and losers. The reality is the opposite. Love is not about winning against one another. It is about winning together by giving everyone their due. Imagine a home where a son fulfills his duty to his parents while at the same time cherishing his wife. That home is filled with peace. Parents feel secure, knowing their child has not forgotten them. The spouse feels valued, knowing she has a special place in her partner's heart. There is no competition, no jealousy, no hidden resentment. Instead, there is harmony, because everyone is honored in the way they deserve. When love becomes competition, relationships are poisoned by suspicion and insecurity. But when love becomes harmony, relationships are strengthened by respect and appreciation. This is why wisdom teaches us to never compare parents with spouse, because each love has its own rightful place. Just as the sun and the moon are different, yet both are needed, the love of parents and the love of spouse are different, yet both are vital. If a husband shows kindness to his wife, that does not mean he is neglecting his parents. And if a wife honors her in-laws, that does not mean she loves her own parents any less. Love is not about quantity but quality. It is not about who gets more or who gets less. It is about whether the love is sincere, respectful, and just. Brothers and sisters, think about it. When you are balanced, you create unity instead of division. A wife who encourages her husband to serve his parents earns not only his respect, but also the prayers of his parents. A husband who supports his wife in honoring her family builds a stronger marriage because she feels valued and understood. This balance brings harmony, and harmony brings blessings. The problem is not that people love one side too much. The problem is that they love without wisdom, without balance. Love must be guided by justice. Parents deserve their honor, their care, their gratitude. Spouse deserves respect, affection, and companionship. Neglecting either one is unfair, and giving one all the attention while starving the other creates wounds that may never heal. But giving each their due is what makes love complete. So, let us remove this idea of competition from our hearts. Parents are not rivals of your spouse, and your spouse is not a rival of your parents. They are both gifts placed in your life at different stages with different purposes. Balance is not about splitting love in half. It is about giving full love to each in their rightful way. That, my dear listeners, is when love becomes harmony, and harmony brings peace not only to the family, but to the heart itself. My beloved brothers and sisters, when we speak about the love of parents, we are speaking about something sacred, something that cannot be measured, something that cannot be compared with anything else. The love of parents is not a love that comes and goes depending on circumstances. It is not a love that is based on conditions or benefits. It is a love that is natural, deep, and lifelong. Long before you had a voice to cry out, long before you knew how to ask for help, your parents were already serving you with love. A mother carried you for months in her womb, sacrificing her comfort, her health, her sleep, and even her peace of mind. Every movement you made caused her pain, yet her heart overflowed with joy because she knew it was you. Then came the sleepless nights, when she woke up countless times just to ensure you were fed, comforted, and safe. A father, in his own way, sacrificed as well. Perhaps he worked long hours, endured harsh words from others, or faced financial difficulties just to provide for you. And even if he never said it out loud, every struggle was endured with love because you were worth it. This is why their love is unconditional. It is given before you can even return it. As we grow older, sometimes we forget these sacrifices. We begin to see our parents as people who only give instructions or point out our mistakes. But if we pause for a moment and look deeper, we realize that behind every instruction was concern, behind every warning was care, and behind every sacrifice was a heart full of love. Parents do not benefit from us the way others might. They do not love us for what we can give them. They love us simply because we are theirs. That is what makes their love sacred and unique. And because their love is so pure, it is lifelong. Even when a child grows old, a parent still worries. Even when a child becomes independent, a parent still thinks of them. The connection never ends. A mother will always pray for her child, whether that child is 5 years old or 50 years old. A father will always want the best for his child, even if his own health is failing. The bond between parent and child is not a chapter that closes. It is a book that continues until the last page of life. This is why, in many teachings and traditions, parents are given the highest status after the Creator himself. Their prayers are powerful, their blessings bring light into our lives, and their displeasure can bring darkness. When you serve your parents, you are not doing them a favor. You are honoring a duty and reaping the blessings that flow from it. When you speak kindly to them, you are not just showing manners. You are touching the very heart that has always beat for you. But sadly, in today's world, we see children forgetting the value of this sacred bond. Some place friends above their parents, some place career, wealth, or even strangers above the ones who gave them everything, and some even consider their parents a burden. This is the height of ingratitude. Because no matter how much you do for them, you will never be able to repay what they did for you. Their love is beyond repayment. The only thing we can do is to honor them, serve them, and pray for them. At the same time, this sacred love is not meant to make us blind. It is not meant to prevent us from loving our spouse or fulfilling our duties towards others, but it is meant to remind us of priorities. It is meant to teach us gratitude. It is meant to keep us grounded, so that no matter how far we go in life, we never forget the hands that first lifted us when we could not walk. Brothers and sisters, reflect for a moment. How many nights did your parents stay awake because of you? How many times did they suppress their own desires, so you could have something better? How many tears did they hide just to keep you smiling? When you remember this, you will realize that their love is not like any other love. It is a love that flows from sincerity, from sacrifice, from the deepest parts of the heart. So let us never belittle the status of parents. Let us never treat them as ordinary people. They are extraordinary because their love is extraordinary. They carried us when we were weak. They stood for us when we were helpless, and they continue to love us even when the world turns its back on us. This is why their love is sacred, unconditional, and lifelong, and it deserves nothing less than honor, respect, and gratitude until the very end. My beloved brothers and sisters, marriage is not just a ceremony, nor is it just about living under the same roof with another person. Marriage introduces an entirely new dimension of love, responsibility, and commitment. It is the joining of two lives, two families, two sets of hopes and dreams. Before marriage, your world may revolve around your parents, siblings, and close friends. But once you marry, your world expands. You are no longer living only for yourself or even only for your parents. You are living also for the one who has entrusted their life to you, and for the bond that God Himself has blessed. Marriage is not meant to replace parental love, but to add to it. It is not meant to divide your heart, but to enlarge it. A spouse is not someone who takes away the love you have for your parents, but someone who shares with you the responsibility of building a loving, balanced life. When two people come together in marriage, they form a team. They promise to walk hand in hand through joys and struggles, through ease and hardship. This companionship requires a special type of love, one built not only on affection, but also on patience, sacrifice, and responsibility. A spouse is not like a parent. Parents love you unconditionally no matter how you behave, but with a spouse, the relationship requires constant nurturing. You cannot neglect it and expect it to thrive. You cannot take it for granted and assume it will always remain the same. This is why marriage introduces responsibility. You must invest time, effort, and care into your partner's heart. You must show them respect, protect their dignity, and make them feel secure. Love in marriage is not just about words. It is about actions, kindness, and consistency. When a man marries, he takes on the responsibility of being a protector, a supporter, a source of comfort for his wife. When a woman marries, she becomes a companion, a nurturer, a source of encouragement and tranquility for her husband. This is not a burden, but a blessing, for in fulfilling these responsibilities, both husband and wife find joy, growth, and fulfillment. The bond of marriage teaches us lessons that cannot be learned elsewhere, lessons of patience, forgiveness, compromise, and true companionship. But sadly, many people fail to understand this new dimension. Some enter marriage with the mindset that their spouse must compete with their parents for attention and love. Others neglect their spouse completely in the name of serving their parents. Both extremes are harmful. The truth is that marriage requires balance, and balance requires wisdom. You can honor your parents deeply while still cherishing your spouse sincerely. You can serve your spouse with love without neglecting your parents' rights. When you understand this, your marriage becomes a source of peace rather than conflict. Think of it this way: your parents gave you life, but your spouse gives meaning to your adult life. Your parents nurtured you as a child, and now your spouse nurtures you as a partner. Your parents supported you when you were weak, and now your spouse supports you as you walk together into the future. Each plays a different role, but both roles are essential. Marriage does not demand that you choose one love over another. It demands that you learn to manage love with wisdom, fairness, and maturity. Marriage also teaches us to think beyond ourselves. Before marriage, a person may make decisions selfishly, focusing only on their own comfort. But after marriage, every choice must take another heart into consideration. You begin to think not only of I, but of we. This change builds maturity. It shapes your character. It transforms you from someone living for yourself into someone living for the harmony of two. And when this is done with sincerity, marriage becomes a doorway to greater compassion and responsibility, not just in the home, but in every aspect of life. My brothers and sisters, understand this well. Marriage is not the end of your responsibility to your parents, and neither are parents an excuse to neglect your spouse. Both are trusts, and both require your care. When you balance them, you find peace within yourself. When you neglect one, you create pain and disharmony. That is why marriage introduces a new dimension of love, not a replacement of one love with another, but an expansion, an addition, a completion of the heart. So embrace this responsibility with gratitude. Understand that the love of a spouse is a blessing given to complement the love of parents, not to compete with it. When you honor both, you are not divided, you are whole. And wholeness is the key to true happiness, both in this world and in the life to come. My beloved brothers and sisters, one of the greatest mistakes people make after marriage is to view their spouse as a replacement for their parents. This mindset creates pain, misunderstanding, and unnecessary conflict. A spouse is never meant to take the place of parents. Rather, they are an addition to the circle of love in your life. Parents have their own irreplaceable place, and a spouse has their own unique position. Confusing the two is like trying to compare the sun with the moon. Both are essential, but each shines in its own time with its own beauty. Parents are the reason you exist. They raised you, cared for you, and shaped your character. Their bond with you is lifelong and unconditional. That bond cannot be replaced because no one else can fill that role. On the other hand, your spouse is the one who walks beside you in adulthood, sharing your joys, sorrows, and responsibilities. They are not here to compete with your parents, nor to erase their importance. They are here to build a new chapter with you. Understanding this difference brings peace to the heart and stability to the home. Problems arise when people mix these roles. Some spouses demand that their partner cut ties or reduce affection for their parents, fearing that love for parents will overshadow love for them. This is insecurity, not love. True love does not demand the destruction of other sacred bonds. At the same time, some individuals, after marriage, neglect their spouse and cling only to their parents, forgetting that their partner also has rights and needs. This, too, is injustice. Wisdom is to give each their rightful place without comparing or competing. When a spouse is seen as a replacement, resentment grows. Parents may feel abandoned, as though years of sacrifice have been forgotten. A spouse may feel burdened, expected to fill roles they were never meant to carry. But when a spouse is embraced as an addition, everyone benefits. Parents feel respected, knowing their child has not forgotten them. Spouse feels secure, knowing they have a place in the heart that is theirs alone. This balance creates harmony in the family, because love is multiplied instead of divided. Think of love as a circle. Before marriage, that circle mainly includes your parents, siblings, and close relatives. After marriage, the circle expands to include your spouse. It doesn't push anyone out, it simply grows bigger. The heart has enough capacity for both, but it requires wisdom to manage. If you enlarge your circle of love with fairness, everyone feels valued. But if you shrink the circle by excluding one for the sake of the other, hearts will break and peace will be lost. In fact, a loving spouse can strengthen your bond with your parents. When a husband encourages his wife to honor his parents, he creates an environment of mutual respect. When a wife supports her husband in caring for his parents, she wins not only his heart, but also the prayers of his parents. Similarly, when parents welcome the spouse as part of the family, instead of seeing them as competition, they gain another loving child. This is how love multiplies. It grows when shared. Brothers and sisters, it is important to remind ourselves that parents and spouses are not on the same scale. Parents deserve honor for their sacrifices and status. Spouses deserve affection for their companionship and partnership. Both are essential and both have rights. By giving each their due, you create a home that is filled with tranquility. But when you treat one as a replacement for the other, you create an atmosphere of jealousy, competition, and bitterness. The wise person understands that a spouse adds richness to life without taking away from the sacred bond of parents. They understand that honoring parents does not mean neglecting a spouse, and loving a spouse does not mean abandoning parents. Instead, they create balance. They ensure that parents feel appreciated and that spouse feels cherished. This balance is the secret to lasting happiness in both marriage and family life. So, let us remove from our hearts this false idea of replacement. Parents are irreplaceable and spouses are invaluable. Together, they form the complete picture of love that makes life meaningful. When we stop comparing and start appreciating, when we stop replacing and start expanding, love becomes a source of harmony instead of conflict. And that, my dear listeners, is how we build homes filled with respect, compassion, and peace. My beloved brothers and sisters, one of the greatest causes of family conflict is imbalance in love. When a person neglects either their parents or their spouse, hearts are wounded and harmony is destroyed. Neglect is not always about words. It can be silence, absence, or even the failure to show small acts of kindness. Over time, this neglect becomes a heavy burden on relationships, leading to pain that could have easily been avoided. Parents, after giving their entire lives for their children, naturally long for respect, care, and connection. They don't expect luxury, but they expect to feel remembered. A simple phone call, a visit, a kind word, or an expression of gratitude is often all they desire. When children neglect them, when they make their parents feel like strangers in their own lives, the pain cuts deeply. Parents may not always express it, but their hearts ache. Neglecting them after all their sacrifices is not just unfair. It is a wound that may never fully heal. On the other side, a spouse also carries deep emotional needs. A husband or wife wants to feel cherished, prioritized, and understood. They want assurance that they are valued in the heart of their partner. When a spouse is constantly ignored, when they are treated as if their presence doesn't matter, or when all attention is directed elsewhere, insecurity grows. That insecurity can turn into bitterness, resentment, and even a breakdown of the marriage. Neglect in marriage, even in small doses, slowly erodes the bond of love. This is why balance is so important. To give all your time and attention to your parents while starving your spouse of affection is injustice. To give all your care to your spouse while abandoning your parents is also injustice. Love was never meant to be lopsided. It was meant to be fair, wise, and sincere. Each relationship deserves its due. Fulfilling one while neglecting the other creates imbalance, and imbalance always leads to emotional wounds. Think of a bird trying to fly with only one wing. No matter how hard it tries, it cannot soar. Similarly, a family cannot thrive when love is given only to one side. The strength of a family lies in balance. When parents feel honored and spouse feels cherished, peace flows like a river through the home. But when one side feels forgotten, that peace is replaced with tension, arguments, and silent pain. Neglect also has long-term effects. A neglected spouse may begin to withdraw emotionally, creating distance in the marriage. A neglected parent may carry silent grief. their hearts heavy with the feeling of being unwanted, and the one who neglects may not realize it until it is too late, until the spouse has lost hope in the relationship, or until the parents are no longer alive to receive their love. Regret at that stage becomes unbearable because lost time cannot be reclaimed. Balance does not mean dividing your love in half. It means giving full love in different ways according to what each relationship deserves. Parents require respect, gratitude, and care. Spouse requires affection, companionship, and priority. When you provide these with wisdom, no one feels neglected. Instead of competing for your heart, parents and spouse both feel secure in their rightful place. This balance transforms a household into a home filled with harmony. Brothers and sisters, remember that every human heart is delicate. Parents may remain silent when they feel neglected, but their silence speaks louder than words. Spouses may continue smiling outwardly while hiding their wounds inside. Do not allow your negligence to create scars that love alone may not heal. The wise person pays attention before the wound is formed. They strive to be fair, to be attentive, and to ensure that everyone feels valued. So let us not treat love as a choice between two sides. Let us not commit injustice by neglecting one relationship for the sake of another. Love is vast, and the heart is capable of honoring parents while cherishing a spouse at the same time. The moment you understand this, you will see how balance preserves peace, while neglect creates wounds that leave behind regret. Protect your relationships by being present, attentive, and fair, because the pain caused by neglect is far heavier than the effort required to love both sides sincerely. My beloved brothers and sisters, we have learned that love between parents and spouse is never about competition. It is about balance, wisdom, and harmony. Parents hold a sacred place in our lives because of their unconditional sacrifices, and spouses hold a blessed place because of the companionship and trust they bring into our journey. Each one has their rightful position, each one deserves respect, and each one completes us in a unique way. The real problem begins when we compare, when we neglect, or when we treat love as a battlefield. But when we give everyone their due, when we see parents and spouse not as rivals but as gifts, our homes are filled with peace, our hearts are filled with gratitude, and our lives are filled with blessings. So let us promise ourselves today that we will never abandon the ones who raised us, nor will we neglect the ones who walk beside us. We will expand our circle of love, not shrink it. We will create homes where parents are honored and spouses are cherished, where love is not divided but multiplied. This is the true wisdom of life, and this is the path to lasting happiness. Thank you, my dear brothers and sisters, for lending me your time, your ears, and your hearts. May these words remind us all to love with fairness, respect, and sincerity. May we honor our parents, cherish our spouses, and live with harmony that brings peace to our homes and contentment to our souls.